What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on this lovely Monday evening as we record Do I Need a Bigger Mouthpiece? I'm Alex Canutrid. This is Dr. Kevin Dugas, and we are so excited to talk to you repertoire for recitals. We have a very long list of rep that we've come up with, and we're going to kind of take you through the gamut from early high school level recital planning all the way through professional for tenor and bass trombone. We're going to add some commentary in there. We might spice it up with some alto pieces or even some contrabass pieces. But the entire idea here is to provide you with as much information so that you can program a fresh recital that is both representative of all the different styles of music that we have, all the different voices in the compositional gamut, and hopefully you'll find something new. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, it's funny. My brother and sister and I right now, last May, we decided to start this top 100 list of artists. It was our own individual top 100 list, and we said we were going to give each other a year, or all of us a year, to put it together. And so when you take on something that comprehensive and that just, I mean, it's no holds barred. There's no genre qualifications. It's really just like however we each individually define a top 100. And so what I have been doing with that list over the past couple months now, because I really kicked it into gear, is I just keep a running notes tab and I just, oh yeah, Primus. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, oh yeah, Selena. And it's my goal is to get it up to 200 and then whittle it down to 100 because I can't, it's hard for me to even think of 200 artists and then to much less make the top 100 list. So all of that is to say that is a big bowl of subjectivity and
No.
spur of the moment, you could call it. So as I was compiling this list, there was a little bit of that. And I want the listener to just understand that this is coming from our perspective, from our written hand or our mind in this February of 2025. And if you were to ask us this a year from now or 6 months from now or anything like that, perhaps these pieces would be different. The good thing about the state, I think, of trombone repertoire, Alex, at this current point in time, is that luckily we have both pieces being written at a fairly good clip, some really wonderful composers of diverse backgrounds and areas of the world are writing music for the trombone, and that's fantastic. And then also, I feel like in certain points, we're also highlighting repertoire that's been around for a while that hasn't been played as much and is starting to get use that even when you or I were an undergrad was not really something that people would look at or play. So we're in a really cool spot. And so this isn't meant to be comprehensive, perfect, or you can think my list sucks. You can think Alex's list sucks. I don't think you will, but
Oh, you might. No promises. Totally.
I mean, you could, and
I
I'll lose.
famously have bad taste, don't I?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll lose a lot of sleep if you don't like my list. I
You
promise
don't
you.
have a lot of sleep to lose, Kevin.
I don't. I don't.
Young
It was a
fathers
joke.
don't have any sleep to lose.
As soon as we get done recording, I'm going to bed.
That seems right for
So,
you.
so yeah. So why don't you? What if? And this is just sort of a suggestion. What if we just go like five at a time? What do you think? Starting with tenors, maybe? Don't
Sure,
hate that. Love
sure.
that.
We can talk tenor. I think that makes sense. So we're going to talk tenor rep, and let's go with high school level pieces. So I'll kick it off. My favorite high school level piece, which is appropriate, by the way, and when we say high school level, like as a composer and just generally composers, that will all tell you this. We don't write music trying to think about what level it fits into. We write music because we want to write that music. And there shouldn't be a value judgment on a song or a piece based on how difficult it is. That's not a value judgment of whether it's good or whether it should be programmed. So if you're a doctoral candidate like I am, and you want to play a high school level piece in quotes, you should make beautiful music with it. Of course, that piece deserves to be played. With that being said, I'd like to cast my first stone for the Marcello Sonata in A minor. Marcello Sonata in A minor is a wonderful piece. It has a really wonderful introductory movement. There's a moderately fast second movement, a very fast fourth movement, and a very short super elongated lyrical third movement that's basically a long tone exercise in long form phrasing. Putting this on a high school or college level recital is a wonderful choice, and it really teaches you a lot about Baroque phrasing.
Excellent. Love that.
Second pick, Eric Wazen wrote a piece in memoriam of 9/11 that is called Hymn for the Lost and the Living. It's a wonderful, short little Owazen style pastoral. I think it's great. It's very underplayed. If you have a New York connection, it's really meaningful to play. My third pick, and again, I'm staying in the same kind of vein, I absolutely love the Telemann F minor. I think it's a wonderful piece of music. It's a really great high school level or college level piece. It gets a lot of play because it's rhythmically interesting, pedagogically powerful. It has a fast movement that can be really difficult and really virtuosic, but also has a slow movement. And there's a lot of variability in the way you perform it, which is great. The Blazevich concert piece number 5 is my fourth pick. Absolutely wonderful piece, underplayed in America, definitely more popular in Europe, but just a really great representation of his writing. And then finally, and this is a bit challenging for high school, but it is my favorite, Derek Bourgeois' fantasy pieces, which are unaccompanied etudes that can be performed at the solo level. They are, I think there's 12 in the book. They're absolutely lovely. Some of them are too hard for that level, but some of them are not. It's very accessible. There's my first five.
Oh, and thank you, Alex, for going along with the format that I'm just like sheepishly and half awake almost. Like, why don't we do five at a time? I'm just like making it up as I go.
I love that for you.
Yeah, that's fatherhood 101 right there.
Hey, you know
Is yeah,
what? Do I need a bigger mouthpiece 2025 where we shoot from the hip?
that's right. That's right. I'm gonna hit you with some classics as well. We have my for my money, Andante and Allegro by Barat. Yeah, I know. It's sort of like a solo and ensemble fight song. It's not the only one that I'm going to give you, but I think that it has, a wonderful, I mean, it is as the title says, it is andante and then it is allegro. And so it does what it says it's going to do.
Who's your
Uh,
favorite Andante and Allegro recording, Kevin?
I like, gosh, I'll tell you what just popped in my head is as you said it, I think the Carl Linthi
It's
recording.
a good one.
Yeah, I think so.
That's one
That's
of
the one.
that's a good
Yeah,
one.
it's one that I've listened to the most. And so yeah, I think it's just a good piece. And you can really, helps young students with lyrical playing and then covers all your bases technically in a fan-friendly key, we
Totally.
could
I
say.
will I will toss out a shout out, although it is not available on streaming. If you have Mark Kellogg's CD, his Andante and
Mm.
Allegro is delightfully great.
Ah, there you go. Check it out, everybody. And then no list of, you should be playing this at a young age is complete without the Morceau Symphonique by Guima. I It's sort of like if you hate the David, you're gonna hate this. I don't know. It's the little
That's
it's kind of
good.
the overplayed high school thing. But I remember, gosh, the first time I ever heard this piece when I was a junior in high school, because my band director said you should play this. I mean, it completely. I thought it was so metal. I thought it was awesome. But you have another thing where you are essentially have this song-like opening with a cadenza, a very stock cadenza, very approachable for a high school student, but a really good approach to a cadenza, and then a nice little allegro section to round things off. So that's a really, I think an exciting piece. Now, I'm going to go through really quickly two pieces of a similar ilk here. One by Arthur Pryor, one by Gardel Simons. We have Thoughts of Love, which I think is if you're going to approach Pryor-esque sort of style, that's a really good thing to listen to in high school. There are some good recordings that are currently, gosh, escaping me. Help me with that, Alex. Who has a really good Thoughts of Love recording?
Oh, I mean, I like Joe's recording.
Is that on one of the Joe albums? For some reason, I
Uh,
didn't realize he
Ron Barron
recorded that
also
one.
has a really good recording of that actually. Ron has an
That's
all-American album that is like a lot of Pryor, and that one is stands out pretty
Yeah, okay.
well.
That's where I feel like I've heard it more. And then so that's a good approach to that. Range isn't too bad. Technique isn't really all that crazy. And then Atlantic Zephyrs, I think, is another one that same style. Gosh, darn it. There was the Larry Zalkin recording is one that I really like of Atlantic Zephyrs. And
That
so
guy makes
that's
everything sound great.
yeah, just that's a wonderful approachable piece. I mean, I played it on a DMA recital, not that I'm saying it's a DMA level piece, but it was a nice little end to a 60 minutes of music where I didn't have any more face. So it was nice. And then rounding out this particular part of the list is the Romance by William Grant Still. This kind of falls into the category of music that was out there that I didn't really know about until I got a little bit older. And I didn't hear anyone playing this in my undergrad. We shared this piece. I'm gonna tell you, audience, right now that I'm naive to who it was originally written for. There's a lot of saxophone recordings of this piece. And so I don't know if it was originally written for saxophone or if it was originally written for something else. But it falls beautifully on the trombone. Denson Paul Pollard has a wonderful YouTube recording of it. There's a couple others, but yeah, big fan of that. Only goes up to like a G. So it's good for bass trombone players also. Could be used for bass trombone players and tenors alike. Really
Totally.
covers just lyrical playing. So those are
Kevin,
quick fire by me.
would you like me to make you feel like you're learning something?
Always, yeah.
It was actually originally written for alto saxophone.
Okay, okay. I was gonna be more embarrassed if it was like written for the viola. I'm
That's
not
why I
gonna do
wanted to
that.
kind of let you down softly. For what it's worth, I had to check Uncle Google, but
Yeah,
so
this
I'm
thing
not
wasn't
on
written.
any high horse here. But
Yeah, it wasn't written for tenor sax or anything like that. So,
unlike the
uh,
Martin Ballade,
there you go. Absolutely, which will is probably on both of our lists. So,
I actually
um,
purposefully kept it off mine just for you.
oh really? Well, thank you. I'll get there then. So yeah, hit me with some more rep ons.
Shall we do another category?
Yeah, we
Um,
can definitely progress. I like I kind of like that balance of that and that flow of that. So as we're transitioning more in this bridge to high school, what are some pieces that kind of fit in this now? You know, they could be big pieces if you have a kind of go get them sophomore recital or perhaps a junior recital and stuff
totally.
like that.
Yeah. So if we're talking at the high school level, at the college level, you have sophomore, junior, I'll go with a couple standards and a couple non-standards. So I love the Grandal. I think it's hard to do better than Grandal. That's the top pick. I think it's an excellent concerto. I think it's the best concerto we have that's approachable at the undergrad level very comfortably. And I think it's probably the second best concerto we have, period. If you haven't played it, Launi Grandal was a Scandinavian composer, violin soloist. He wrote the piece in 1925. It's great. It's absolutely phenomenal. I think probably everybody that listens to this knows it. So I won't go into too much more detail. Erica Way's Sonata is a very approachable first movement and less approachable second and third movement at the undergrad level, particularly if you take it at tempo. But it's excellent. It really shows off a lot of the things that trombonists have to work hard to learn to do in undergrad in order to be competitive at the professional level. And they're not all range. Many of these concertos are limited by range, and working your range to be able to access specific high notes is kind of the challenge. That is not the case with the Oasin. It is about nimbleness, it is about tone, it is about open centering. It's the piece that put Eric Oasin on the map for the brass world. It's great. It's worth your time. A recently discovered composer that has become more famous in the last few years, Ulysses Kay, wrote a bassoon sonata that I think is absolutely awesome. A dear friend of mine that I went to school with, Jeff Dunn, who now works at Eastman, did an arrangement of the Ulysses K bassoon sonata, which is now set for trombone. It's absolutely great. It's very challenging work in ways that most trombone works are not so challenging. So this is a bit different because it's originally put for bassoon. So I do recommend checking that out. That's a favorite of mine. Two more picks. Well, we kind of got to put the Cavatina on there. I think the Cavatina is approachable at the high school level for sure, but I think it's really a piece that you can perform well at the undergrad level. Those are kind of my big choices that are kind of more common. And then I want to point out a piece that you may not know about that is a newer piece by a wonderful composer called Lauren Bernofsky. And this is it's a series of songs called Songs from a Mother's Journal. Nikki Abizzi commissioned them, and they are lyrical. It's a set of songs. They're very varied in their style. They're playful, they're somber, they're solemn. It's a song cycle for trombone. And anytime we have an opportunity to put a song cycle on a recital, we should.
Definitely, definitely. I always try and program when I have say over what it is that I'm programming. I want there to at least be one song or one song influenced sort of composition. Before I get on to my talks here, or my picks rather, I do want to say about the Oasin. I love the Oasin so much. Alex, we've talked about this that
You
I
want to
play
hear
quite
it
often.
on March 24th at March 23rd at NEC?
You playing the whole thing?
I'm playing the whole thing.
All right, there you go, everybody. There's your plug for hearing some great Oasin. I love the Oasin, and I always joked one that the first movement could just be its own piece, and you could finish it with the first movement. I always thought that because it was kind of long enough and it was exciting enough, and even though it ends down, sort of, it still you could wrap it up there. I always called it like the CrossFit of the trombone repertoire. It was just like it calls for you to you talk about nimble, and I don't mean this as a negative, but it's like the melodies are just they're so fragmented in a Wazen-esque that you just jump from idea to idea to idea. It's like he was just sketching something out and then glued everything together. And I love it. I mean, I've listened to so many different recordings of it. Just oh, what a freaking awesome piece. And it's an absolute just shred machine for the collaborative part. I mean, it's just so cool. Just as I would listen to the Schulek by itself without trombone, I would listen to the Oasin with piano without trombone because I think it would be so cool. So anyway, that's me gushing about the Oasin. Obviously, I would have gone with that piece. For mine, I'm gonna another piece that could, you know what, here because I want to, yeah, I'm gonna give six, and the reason I'm gonna give six is I'm gonna say just one and be like, y'all should know this. The Jurgensen Romance, another good lyrical thing. Throw it on your recital.
Ah,
Beautiful.
you had
Yeah,
to throw it in there.
chef's kiss. It's wonderful.
I
But I
hate that piece so much.
really, I think it's
Yeah,
great.
the only
I
thing
think
I hate more than that is the Youngin.
oh really? You hate the
Yeah,
Youngin? It's not on the
yeah.
list, but
No, keep it off, Kevin. Keep it
that seems
off.
sacrilegious. Okay, so we won't
Only
talk too much about the Jurgensen.
Don, if Don's angry at me, he can call us. Call in Don Lucas if you don't like the fact that I don't like the Youngin, your favorite thing in the world.
He does love the
He
Youngin.
loves the Youngin. Go ahead.
So I'm replacing more or less, since I was even before Alex expressed the distaste for it. I want to make sure that I don't forget another piece that I feel like could have a goat conversation for standard trombone rep, and that's the Boats of Ballad. I think the Boats of Ballad is, yeah, it's just it's an absolute, I don't know, it's a journey of a piece because it goes through so many different stylistic points. And Jeremy Wilson's recording of it on YouTube, as well as his breakdown about the different sections, is really worth a watch. And so I've performed that piece. I love that piece. It's wonderful. So big standard. You throw that on a junior recital, that could be one of, if not the big piece on the junior recital, and it'd be a really effective recital. I also like the Sonatina by Saratsky.
That's a favorite of mine.
Yeah, Saratsky's writing is really unique in my opinion. His trombone quartet is a very similar has a similar sort of style to it. If I were to if I were to have to, let's say, fix a student who really was not strong in staccato light playing, the Saratsky would be where I would go with that because you just really have to approach it like you're playing a small bore horn, in my opinion, and it has to just dance lightly. So I love the Saratsky, all three movements of that, really, really fun, beautiful sort of second movement. A little bit less standard here, one that's very near and dear to me. But before I get to that, I'll say Daybreak by Nicola Ferro is just I love Daybreak. I love the whole series of like Sunset, Daybreak, and Midnight, which doesn't get as much play because it's hard as all get out. But that's beautiful stuff to me. I've heard it on recitals, I've played it myself. And then let's see. Technically, okay, yeah. Technically, I'm good here. So this next one's number what, three or four. The next one's number four for me, and that's going to be a piece that I played recently and played on a recital by Japanese composer Nobuhito Sato, which is entitled Byakugan. A really great reference recording for this piece is Megumi Kanda at this most recent Southeast Trombone Symposium, 2024. It's a really cool piece. It was the second place winner of the Japanese Association of Trombones composition competition in 2019. And so it's kind of made the rounds. And if you're looking for a unique piece, I would find that piece online and check that piece out. It's very conversational with the collaborative part, has some technique in it, doesn't overdo it on the range. It's just a really well written piece by trombone music by someone that understands how the instrument works really well. And then I'll finish out this sort of throw this on a junior, maybe a senior recital, depending upon how you're feeling. But the Sonata Vox Gabrieli by Schulek, of course. No list would be complete without it. Love that piece. I'm sure we all know it. You could, yeah, you can stand on that piece on a recital. It's awesome.
It's so good. Pay your pianist an extra $50.
Definitely.
Yeah, for that and the Hindemith, you always give your pianist an extra $50 for those two. Um,
Castor Ed probably too.
yeah, no, that one you take $50 if they don't prep it. That's a joke. That's half a
Yeah, right.
joke. So I'm going to call the next category. So this is solos that teach you something in your technique. So this is my pick for like solos that if you have a technique deficiency and you really want to figure it out, this is where you go. So I'm going to hit the low-hanging fruit first. If you cannot triple tongue, play the third movement of the bourgeois. Play it slowly, learn it slowly. The thing about technique that is challenging, like double tonguing, triple tonguing, is that if you work on something slowly and it is required for a piece, you can actually get a lot of value out of it. So I think that this is the move is to think this way with a lot of these solos. If you're programming a recital and you have a deficiency and your professor suggests a piece, it can be a really great tool to help you work through something pedagogically and musically. In that same vein, the Larsen, if you are doing the Lars-Erik Larsen concertino, is really great if you struggle with double tonguing. It's fast, it's light, it's a style that moves around the horn pretty quickly, and you have to play it with a pretty decently sustained air to get warm sound. It is, after all, performed with string orchestra. So, to that end, that's a great piece to work on that skill. Another piece that fits into this category, and one of my favorite pieces, is a piece by Amy Mills, and it's the Red Dragonfly Sonata, which was commissioned by
Mhm.
Megumi Kondo. Absolutely beautiful work. This is a really great piece to work on playing with a lighter sound for long periods of time, endurance building in like the upper middle range and getting a resonant sound without pushing too hard. This is one of the best pieces to work on that because the whole piece relies on you having a really resonant sound. These are just, individual things in your technique that you can work on. Fourth, high range. If you struggle with high range and you want a solo that allows you to work on your high range in a super reasonable manner, building it out slowly, I highly recommend putting time into the Castorade. And that may seem like a strange answer, but the second and the third movement of the Castorade require you to have a control of the middle high range. And by building that, you're going to build strength into the upper high range. It can be really, really helpful. Finally, I want to talk style. And if you're someone that struggles with very specific styles and making changes in styles, and this is a little bit of a cop-out answer, but art song, specifically find a set of German, a set of French, and a set of Italian art song. What does that look like? Well, for German, you can grab something like Mahler's Songs of the Wayfarer. You can grab the Alban Berg songs that are very accepted, the Strauss Four Last songs. There's so many art songs out there now, and you don't have to limit yourself to these nationalities. You could do British art song, do song the Ralph Ray Vaughan Williams, songs of the Wanderer. There's so many art songs. So yeah, those are my five. Go ahead, Kevin.
So let's start off with if you wanted a piece that you could look back on and say, holy crap, I learned how to play this piece. It did not kill me. I learned how to be efficient enough to play it from beginning to end. I think the Martin Ballade would be something that you would. It's sort of like playing a video game, an 8-bit Super Nintendo, or actually, this would just be Nintendo if it's 8-bit video game where you have to manage how much life you have throughout the boss fight. And if you've gotten to a certain part of the boss fight and you don't have enough life at this point that you're gonna die. And
Dude,
I
it's
think the
like
Mart
battle toads, battle toads, you get towards the end and you die and you're like, well, time to start the game all over.
exactly. And the Martin is sort of like that. Yeah, not even just with the first page, but the entirety of the Martin Ballade. If you start to push too hard, if you put too much credence into volume in the wrong spots, if your tongue is too heavy at certain times in the technical sections, you're gonna fall apart at some point, and it's gonna, that's gonna be your undoing. And this is sort of like with the Bozza, certainly with the Castored. This is a piece that is really one of our hallmark, classic pieces of repertoire. So that's what I would say for endurance. For technique, the kind of a survival piece a little bit, but I think for technique, along sort of how you would think about the bourgeois, when I was a first year master student, I recorded the due to you for ETW. I think it wasn't ATW yet. So I recorded for ETW that year. And the due to you was a piece that I, up until that point, was just terrified that I'd never be able to play. I would never be able to do the da da gee, da da ga, da da ga, da da ga, da da ga, da ga, like all of that stuff. I thought was crazy. But I worked on it slow for a really long time. And then unsurprisingly, I was able to do it. And so I think that the due to you, and Alex and I were talking about this before we started the episode, it doesn't get as much play nowadays. I can't tell you the last time I've heard someone play it live. That's a shame. It's a really good piece of music. It deserves our consideration. Let's see.
It's hard.
Uh,
It's really hard, but it's
it's
so
hard,
worth it.
and it's hard to put together with the piano, but it's not as meaty for the piano as some of those other pieces. So definitely worth it. Sound development. And so I'm going to kind of borrow from you a little bit, Alex. I'm just going to word it differently. But I think if one, in any recital, you need a piece that you know is going to be a stopgap between, okay, I just played something crazy. I got more crazy stuff coming up. I need something that's going to allow my face to relax and calm the nerves almost. And so I think Brahms' Four Serious Songs were really helpful for me in what I was doing my first second year of my DMA first recital. And so I would warm up, not warm up. It was like my second session of the day was always the Four Serious Songs until I gave this recital. I ended up memorizing the entirety of the song cycle and performing it from memory. A couple slips, but I was pretty proud. Freaking long. And yeah, you just pop in some good headphones, play with Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau or Thomas Kwastoff's recordings of this, and your sound concept will improve. Your phrasing will improve. Just so much of that will improve, and it won't be at the expense of the physicality of you playing the instrument, as long as you don't just repeat it for an hour. So that's kind of what I think for sound development. Style, I'm going to go with a piece that also doesn't get too much play, but I think it should get more, is the Concertino by Mio. I think that that concertino, I'm going to say, again, being very vulnerable here, in all of my years, I've never bothered to know how to pronounce the second word to that. Concertino,
Would you like me to help you?
please
It's
go.
d'hiver. It means winter
Oh,
concerto.
that's right.
It's
I knew the
French.
winter. I knew, well, I know it was French because Mio is part of Les Six. See, I passed that test.
Very
Um,
impressive.
Thank you.
Wow. I think
I
it's Les
know.
Six, but that's okay.
That's whatever.
You're from Texas.
Um,
That's fine.
my last name's French, and I haven't been, well, I've been saying it correctly, but most people don't. So, but yeah, this piece, I don't know. To me, it just kind of sounds like a puzzle that comes together. It has enough technique. It's very intervallic, and so I think that's a good. It's a really nice test of making sure that your ear is engaged the whole time as you're learning it, especially because parts of the piece in like moments of recapitulation are altered ever so slightly. It's a really fun piece. Beautiful second movement, very mysterious, very smoky. But I think stylistically that's a great one. And then let's see. The last thing I'm going to talk a little bit about for style, only because I'm working on it right now and I want it to fit inside the confines of what we're talking about, is Encuentros by Carolino Cavacci. And I think that this is another, maybe this isn't, you wouldn't attach a problem to this, but it's certainly nice for, let's call it mode mixture. I think that's a good way to put it. There's a lot of moments in this, like it's just all sort of labeled similarly, and there's a lot of 6/8 3/4 moments that you have to traverse while having a nice conversation with your collaborator, musically speaking. And so I think that style and counting is a really great piece for this. It's obviously it's a newer work. It's not technically all that crazy. It's got some endurance stuff. I'm still working out, making sure that I get through it, as comfortably as I want, but it's very playable and it's a lot of fun. So that's kind of how I wrap up that category.
I love that. That's a really good list, Kevin.
Thank you,
Um,
thank you.
I do have, if you'd like, a French dictionary I can mail you. It might be helpful. It's no
No, I'm
pressure.
good. I'm all
Yeah.
right. I got
No.
Google.
There you go. Chat GPT.
That's right.
Do you want to do like for category, maybe we could do like recital big bombs, like the big piece that kind of sits in the center, the anchor piece.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Cool. Well, speaking of France, I feel like it would be irresponsible if we didn't start this list with the Tomasi. The Tomasi is the best piece we have in our repertoire. I say that as an opinion that is almost a fact. It's excellent. It is a piece that shows off what the trombone does so well. It is masterfully orchestrated. It is right on the verge of being unplayably challenging in terms of doing it start to finish with an orchestra. And yet, your job when you play it is to make it sound easy. It explores a style that we do so well, which is the early turn of the 20th century, the beginning of jazz making its way to Paris, coming out of like a late kind of neo-modernist sound. It's really excellent. Tomasi, Tomasi, Tomasi. My second pick for like kind of an anchor piece, this is the Bourgeois. Do the Bourgeois. It's really great. It's super anchory. It's challenging. I've already talked about it though, so I'll move on. Kevin Day. Kevin Day Sonata in one movement is awesome. It's a great anchor piece. It's really challenging. If you're a bass trombone, Fantasia, really excellent. Great anchor pieces that just kind of sit in the middle as kind of a it's kind of a way to tie your recital to down in one piece. I'll throw the plug in. I
No,
wasn't
don't do
going to.
I was going to.
I think my plug here is Elizabeth Rahm. Her Fantasia is really great. It's not impossible to play, but it anchors really well because it sits in like the vein of showing a lot of different sounds in one piece. If you are a bass trombonist, Daniela Candelari is extremely close. It's a really great anchor piece because it takes you through a journey and it's a bit longer and you could do a couple movements, but you really want to do all five in one setting. I hate to do it, but I'm going to do it. The David is an anchor piece. Do the David. It is the staple in our rep for a reason. It's a really great choice for an anchor piece, and I honestly believe it's compelling music. And then I guess my last pick, I've heard this as an anchor piece for recital, and it's worked really well. Is again Lauren Bernofsky's Latin dances. They're really great. They're super compelling. They're a lot of fun. You can make them sound super virtuosic if you kind of cook the tempo a little bit. It's really good. Gavin, tell us about your ship's anchor.
So when you were the reason I freaked out because when you said I'm gonna, throw my plug in here, I was gonna say your sonata, I think, because it's a piece that's on
Oh yeah, I
my
forgot about that.
it's a piece that's on my to-do list. I need to clear a few professional hurdles because it's going to be a piece that I'm going to have to spend some time with. But I think that it's like so much of your writing, finding your way to the other side of it is a rewarding endeavor. Having played Cathedral of Dreams and reading through some of your other stuff, I think that fits into that. And so
You're too
that would
sweet.
that's my first to kick that off. I was also in line with you on the Kevin Day. I'm gonna say the Crespo is big time. If you're exploring, you could sort of, plug and play here, Crespo, Dual Elastics, all of that kind of stuff. But I like the Crespo one because I can play it. And it took me a while, but I do like that piece a lot. And the piece in E flat minor by Row Parts, you
It's a
can
great piece.
You can build a recital around that thing. That piece freaking rocks. That was one of the when I heard that in undergrad for the first time. I mean, it's just like I'm hesitant to compare it to any other pieces, but I will say that there are some
Big
pieces
Boy
that,
Morceau. I'll do it. Big Boy Morceau.
yeah, I mean, it's just like there's pieces that get played more because they have to, because of like auditions and stuff. When I'm like, you should just play the row parts. I think that'd be way better. And then another piece that's just it's so hard that I still have PTSD from having worked on it, and that is a Filash sonata, sonata at the end of the century. What a freaking cool piece. Just a really magnificently written piece. And it's so balanced between the collaborative part and the trombone part. There are large sections where the piano has all of the attention and you're merely an accompaniment to what they're doing. Just freaking awesome. I love that piece. And then I'll throw in as, because I'm sure you can add into this, Alex, but, I got to give a shout to the Albrechtsberger or the Mozart, the Leopold Mozart. I think,
Yeah.
if you're going to play the alto trombone and attempt it seriously, those are some pieces that you're going to have to look at some juncture. And I love the Albrechtsberger a little bit more than I like the Mozart's, just a personal taste. They're both great pieces.
It's about
They're
time we
both
find
better.
something that you're wrong about, Kevin. I've been
They're
really searching for it.
they're both better than the Gottlieb finger or whatever that
Or
piece is
the
called.
Vaughan sucks.
Long as yeah, I mean it's like they're both better than that in my subjective, very
I mean,
subjective
if we're going
opinion.
down the alto path, Albinoni is really great. What else you
Hmm.
got to toss in there for for alto?
Oh my gosh, it's a piece I played on my first DMA recital. It was an oboe sonata. It wasn't Albinoni. It was
Did you do Bisozzi?
yeah, Bisozzi.
Yeah.
Gosh, that piece is freaking hard too. It
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
A lot of good
and
stuff.
yeah. So how do you feel about because I want to go to bed soon. You need to, rather, not even just want. I don't want to give discredit to the bass trombone world out there, and I
Yeah,
have a
let's
list of
you
bass trombone. Why
want
don't
to
we
do
just
eight
throw
each? How does eight sound?
I love eight. I was thinking seven, but I can make eight happen.
Do you want to go first? Do you want to go second?
I'll go first.
Seems right.
So thinking about kind of following a similar format in a miniature form here, the McCarty Sonata is a wonderful piece for developing bass trombonist, young undergrad. It's very approachable. It's not super rangy. It never goes crazy fast. You can make this piece sound really, really good, and it does not have to really tax you all too much. I think also in that vein, I'll give one more that kind of fits that characteristic. I would say Concertino Basso by Lieb is another really good early bass trombone work that I want to say the highest note in it is a C. The lowest note isn't much more than maybe a G or so. It follows some fun stylistic ideas. You kind of open up with this more marcato sort of a little more pesante statement. And then it dances a little bit more. It has a little bit more technique in counting, but it's very, very approachable. My favorite, I would say my favorite. I'm hesitant to say my favorite, but this piece gets so much hate because it gets so overplayed, but I don't care. I'll listen to it every day. I won't, but if I wouldn't mind it, is Concerto in One Movement by Lebedev. I love the Concerto in One Movement. It's just got a haunting melody that sticks with me. It's approaching the flashier side. I have a really particular memory of our friend Cameron Owen when he was like a freshman in college at Alabama and he was a finalist for ITA. He had to play that piece and he was laying it down. So concerto, and then my mentor and teacher Martin McCain has recorded it on an album as well. So it's like I've heard a lot of great renditions of that. Moving our way up the list a little bit, I'm going to go with this version of or this iteration of Owazin's writing. I think the concerto for bass trombone is also just an exceptional piece of music. It follows sort of the similar outline as we talked about with the tenor sonata. Charlie Vernon is still my go-to recording. just wonderful playing. It's so much nostalgia. I was just listening to that nonstop when I was an undergrad. So I love the concerto for trombone or bass trombone by Oazen. Let's see, I'm at four, and we need to start getting a little bit more difficult. So
Why don't you let me
let's
jump in with four and you do some thinking?
there we go. I love
It would be foolish if I didn't toss in the Tom Ritter George.
it.
Love it. One of my favorites. Super tight, challenging, appropriate at the graduate level, appropriate for a very competent senior in high school, in like undergrad as well. My second pick, easy pick here. It's got to be Sub-Zero. If you haven't heard Sub-Zero, it's absolutely wonderful. I am very partial to it with the jazz quartet version. Play it with the jazz rhythm section. It sits really well. Oasin's Ballade is,
Mm.
the piece that made me get into trombone, seriously. Harp, trombone, strings. It's gorgeous. What do you need? It does everything really well. And then I think my fourth pick for bass trombone has got to be the Coetzee. I love the Coetzee. It's awesome. It's just a great piece of music.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
there's my four.
That was Allegro Maestoso,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah, that piece is like a punch in the face from the beginning. Like not like from an exhausting perspective, but from an audience perspective. Incredible stuff. Okay, so I'm just highlighting here. I got two to start off with. I think To Be or Not to Be by the Tomasi, a little
Yeah.
bit, it's a little bit more, I say niche because it's trombone quartet backing you up, or sorry, it's three other trombones so it's basically a trombone quartet with a solo bass trombone part. Funny story about that. My best friend Jeremiah Ward played that on his senior recital, and my I didn't appreciate Tomasi as much in 2013. And so I told Jerry, and please, future employers, don't hold this over my head. I'm much more mature now. I told Jerry as I went into record rehearsals, I said, Jerry, this is the only time I'm ever going to look at this, ever, because I hate it. And I don't want to play it. And I don't want to, I think it sucks. I've changed a lot in 12 years and I've come to love it. I've gotten a chance to perform it another time and it's absolutely wonderful. So again, although I've apologized, sorry, Jerry. Sorry for being a pain in the butt about that. Wonderful piece. So cool. Tetra Ergon is another piece, sort of like I don't know, like the Tom Ritter George with some coffee involved in it, It's just it's wild. That's always stuck with me is it got some really fun low pedal Ds, I think some pedal Cs in there that just really rip and just an absolutely exciting piece. There's a something that I kind of notice is that the bass trombone, you may or may not agree, but I feel like the bass trombone has a more diverse, stylistically speaking, set of unaccompanied works that just work really well. We have some great ones, don't get me wrong, on the tenor side, but I'm thinking of Spain by David Feder. I think Spain is like just a really exciting piece. And I know we said four, but Meditation by Hidash is another one of those.
Yeah, that's a
That's
great piece.
such a, oh, it's badass. Super cool. And then let's finish with the, it's tough because I got a couple things written down here, but I'm gonna go again with let's highlight a piece that needs to get more play and was a composer spoken about. Was she spoken about? No, we talked about another composer. What is this? Candelari, Extremely Close, is a piece for bass trombone by Candelari that I think is it Daniela Candelari?
Daniela Candelari. That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right. I was reading her name like an hour ago and I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. She wrote some stuff, I think, Alex, that we played together in trombone octet that was really
Yes.
fun. And she's her writing is incredible. She's a conductor as well. Just some amazing stuff. So I think Extremely Close is a piece that's absolutely worth checking out
She
for
knows the
somebody.
bass trombone very well. She even married a bass
Yeah.
trombonist. So, that's how that
Ah,
goes.
there you go.
Yeah, four more. This isn't that hard. I do think it's interesting that We do have seem to have more diversity in composers in tenor than bass. That's a little disappointing. I think we need more people writing for bass trombone. I really like Owazin's Rhapsody, and I really like his concertino, which is accompanied by octet. That's one of my favorite pieces. That was another piece that I really enjoyed doing and, had a pretty pivotal impact on me. And I just think it's great. I think it's a good choice for a recital. It's a good like kind of showstopper because you can do something that really features a group of friends. I guess I can mention psychedelia. Psychedelia is pretty good. Gives you a really great opportunity to do something really hard. The other big like showstopper that I like is the Halverson Passacaglia that Jim Markey did. Really hard, but like really great bass trombone opportunities. And then, I think I've covered most of them. There are a few other big pieces that I don't particularly care for, and I will leave them out of the conversation. But I guess I'll just end with this because it's not known by many people. Castorade also wrote a bass trombone sonata, and it's excellent. It's really good, specifically the second movement. Really good. As did Bourgeois. Bourgeois also wrote a great bass trombone concertino.
Are you speaking to the Fantasy Concertante, or are you speaking to, was there another piece that I'm not familiar with for Castoret?
No, there's a sonata.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's a three
I
movement sonata,
word.
and it's
Okay.
great. It's great. It is slightly easier than the tenor sonata, but not much.
Okay.
It's really good. It's not very commonly played, but it's great. Highly recommend.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff to chew on, y'all. That was fun to talk about, and I feel like
So
we did it.
fun.
I feel like we did it in an organized enough manner that it's going to be a good listen to sort of go through and get some ideas and those types of things. This was a healthy conversation. So thanks for letting us have it, everybody.
Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Happy practicing, everybody.